Okay, good day everyone. Today is another lesson for analytical methods, analytical chemistry. For today, we will discuss about errors in measurements and lab techniques and tools in analytical chemistry or analytical methods for biology. So when we speak of errors in measurements, we have to take note that there are always errors in measurements because no measurement is perfect. Every measurement has a degree of uncertainty. So this implies that all measurement, regardless of its accuracy and precision, are subject to a certain degree of error. In our previous topics, we have discussed this already, that more or less there are numbers that we are certain of, but there are always numbers that we are just assuming or guessing. And these numbers, they're what we call as uncertain numbers. These errors may be brought about by the limitations of the instrument used or due to the lack of skill of the reader. So by the way, what are errors? Errors are disparity. When we speak of disparity, this means difference or deviation between the measured value and the true value of the object being measured and has a different types depending on how it is acquired. So errors are simply deviations or ang layo ng isang measurement mula sa actual na value or true na value. So there are three types of measurements or three types of errors I mean. So errors can be systematic, random, or gross error. Systematic errors are known as determinate errors. When we speak of this determinate, it means the sources of errors are known and definite. They are associated with instruments used to obtain measurements. So what does this affect? It can affect the accuracy of the measurements. In our previous topic, we have discussed that accuracy is the closeness of the measured value to the actual value. Can it be prevented or reduced? Since this is all about determinate errors and we know the sources of errors, yes, the source of errors can be known and therefore, these kinds of errors can be eliminated. Or somehow, if it's not eliminated, we can reduce the effect of the errors by taking some measured steps or important steps. There are three kinds of systematic errors. One kind of error is observational error. This is when the person making the measurement makes a mistake. In other words, observational error is error due to mistakes in the reading of the measurements or the tools. The second one is environmental error. This is a kind of error due to factors in the environment or what we call as external factors. And lastly, instrumental error. These are errors brought about when the instrument being used is not properly calibrated or is not functioning properly. So this is all about the instrument. So to recap, observational error, this is from the point of view of the experimenter sa tao. Ang environmental error, this is because of the environment or external. And instrumental error, this is because of the instruments that are used by the experimenter. So sa tao, sa environment, at saka sa instrument na ginagamit. Example of systematic errors na observational is error because of misreading of an instrument. For example, you can see here, yung dito sa right muna, we can see here that a fluid here, yung fluid kapag nilalagay sa graduated cylinder, you have to take note of the lower meniscus if you want to read it. So what's the proper way of reading a fluid in a graduated cylinder? Diba, ang dapat natin gawin is that find a level surface or a surface na level at hindi siya tagilid, and then put the halimbawa graduated cylinder or beaker or the container on that flat surface, and then dapat ang eye level ng reader should be pantay ng tinatawag nating meniscus. Yung meniscus is the level ng liquid na nasa loob ng container. So in particular, we want to read the lower meniscus part of the liquid inside the container. So, dapat eye level lang siya, in short. Hindi pwedeng nakatayo ka and then i-measure mo yung level ng water or yung meniscus, i-read mo sa loob ng container. Or maybe, hindi pwedeng yung container mismo is nakataas above your eye level. So, hindi pwede. Dapat pantay lang talaga. Another thing is incorrectly reading an instrument or a result. For example, if you don't know to interpret the result, ml is milliliters. Sometimes, if we don't have yung background or knowledge about yung mga measurements sa SI, mahihirapan tayong intindihin ang mga ibig sabihin ng mga prefixes sa SI. Another one is ang bias or carelessness ng operator. Sometimes, may mga tao na they have their own bias or judgments already kahit na hindi pa nila alam yung resulta. So, because of their prejudgments, pwedeng maapektuhan ang results ng mga experiments. Another one ay ang environmental na systematic errors. Ito ay caused by external factors that may affect the condition of the measuring instruments. Example, there are instruments that are very sensitive to the changes in temperature. Gagana lang sila sa tinatawag na optimal temperature. Hindi sila gagana kapag masyado nang mainit or for example, nag-overheat yung mga instruments or maybe in cold areas. Moisture can also affect the reliability, consistency, accuracy, and precision ng mga instruments. Because yung tubig na naasa hangin, tulad ng humidity na tinatawag, pwede niyang ipa-change ang result ng isang instrument. For example, yung yung mga instrument na electronic-based instrument, pwede maapektuhan ng tubig in the environment or in the air. Yung dirt, of course, pwede makapagpa-change ng values ng results. So, kailangan, every time nagagamit tayo ng mga lab tools, kailangan siguraduhin malinis muna at walang mga chemicals na naiwan from the previews ng mga experiments. And of course, as a courtesy naman, we have to clean the instruments after every use. Next one ay ang instrumental na klase ng systematic errors. This time, ang cause is ang nature ng instrument. Ang mga instruments naman ay pili lang. They are only designed to measure a limited range ng mga parameters or yung mga bagay na nais natin na measure. So, not all, walang isang instrument, walang ni isang instrument na kayang i-measure ang infinity or ang lowest boundary at saka highest boundary. Meron siyang certain limitations. Lahat-lahat ay may limitation. For example, if you're using the 150 ml beaker, it cannot measure na volume ng mga liquid more than 150 because that is only limited to 150 ml. So may mga range of accuracies and range of precision ang lahat ng mga instruments. Maybe what you're measuring is ang bagay na beyond the capability ng mga ginagamit natin ng mga instruments. So that's why kailangan din natin isaalang-alang ang sensitivity pati na ang appropriateness ng instrument that we use in every experiment. Isa pa nito is kapag ang instrument is not properly calibrated. Ibig sabihin, hindi na siya yung minimeasure na bagay ng instrument ay hindi na akma sa mga results na pinapakita ng instrument. So kasi malayo na siya sa actual na value. Kapag napakalayo na sa actual na value, ang binibigay na result ng isang instrument, it means na it's high time na kailangan na nating i-calibrate ang instrument natin. Okay, so that is instrumental. Number 2 na kind of error ay random errors. Ito yung mga errors that are very unpredictable. Kusa na lang sila o basta-basta na lang silang mag-a-appear mismo sa during or after or before the experiment. They're always present during any measurement and they cannot be controlled. But then again, because random errors are consistently appearing or andyan palagi sa every kind of measurement, they tend to cancel each other out over multiple measurements. And that's why dito papasok ang importance ng replicates. So, kailangan hindi lang iisa ang measurements na gagawin natin. Every time na mag-measure tayo quantitatively, kailangan nating i-repeat with a minimum of 3 trials lang. So, minimum ng 3 trials dapat, halimbawa, nagme-measure ka ng mga mass na mga bagay-bagay. So, para ma-sure tayo na ma-lessen yung error because of random errors, kailangan nating ulit-ulitin siya at least 3 times. Mas maraming trials, mas mas better ang result kumpara sa isa lang na trial. Baka yung isang trial ay resulta ng chance or luck lang. Okay, kailangan ulit-ulitin natin kasi pwede silang mag-cancel out. So what does it affect? Precision of the measurements. Kung kanina sa ating systematic error ay accuracy, this time sa random errors, precision naman ng instruments. So can it be prevented or reduced? Because this is unpredictable, unfortunately, we cannot eliminate random errors, but the effects ng random errors can be reduced by taking measures or taking preventions, or yung mga bagay that could reduce the effect ng random errors, katulad ng pagtitake ng maramihang measurements. Hindi lang iisa, but maraming measurements. So, ang random errors ay kilala din bilang indeterminate errors. Indeterminate because we don't really know the source of these errors. Bigla-bigla nang silang dumarating and we really don't know, no? So, if you measure the same length, halimbawa, several times, you will get slightly different results each time. And this event ay due to random errors. So, kung magme-measure ka ng length na isang bagay ng maraming times, sometimes makakuha ka ng hindi consistent na result. Mag-iiba talaga. May isa talagang measurement na iiba. And yung pag-iiba ng measurement, that is the result ng random error. So in experiments that require precise timing, for example, another example, variations in the reaction speed of the persons starting or stopping a timer can introduce discrepancies in the recorded time. So napakahalaga ng reaction time ng humahawak or may hawak ng timer sa mga laro na kailangan may pabilisan. So that's why yung random error, dun papasok yung tinatawag na reaction time. The last kind of error ay mga tinatawag na gross errors. Gross error are types of errors caused by human mistakes. When we speak of the word gross, it means most of the time seryoso na mga mistakes. And these are very serious mistakes. Ito yung masyadong malala na mistakes, and these will affect precision and accuracy of the measurements. Can it be prevented or reduced? Yes, this can be avoided by taking care and following proper procedures. Most of the time kasi negligence ng tao, napapabayaan niya ang mga damang gagawin when yung tao na yon, when he or she wants to measure things. Halimbawa, if for example, gamit ang ruler, but then dapat magsimula tayo sa 0, ipantay natin sa 0 ang dulo ng object na we want to measure. But may mga tao na hindi alam gamitin ng ruler. Kapag ganun, that's a serious mistake. Kasi naman, napaka-easy gamitin ng ruler, but unfortunately, meron pa rin mga tao na katulad ng ganyan. So, gross mistakes yun, or serious mistakes na mapapabilang sa gross errors. But the thing is, since errors are unpredictable, some errors are unpredictable and errors are inevitable. Ibig sabihin, hindi natin kayang pigilan basta-basta ang mga error kasi may error talaga at hindi sila nawawala. So how do we express errors in our measurements? One way is to calculate the errors that we committed during the measurement. So that's why we can have it in terms of absolute, relative, and percentage error. So the goal of any kind of analysis is to reduce or produce accurate and precise data. So it's important to take errors into consideration. So paano ba kino-calculate ang errors? Again, there are 3 ways to present errors in measurements: absolute, relative, at saka percentage. These are the formula ng tatlong klaseng errors na nabanggit. You may pause this video and take note of the formulas ng absolute, relative, at saka percentage. Yung absolute error, ito yung the absolute value of the difference between the true value and the observed value. True value, ito yung... So, when we speak of true value, it means ito yung ideal theoretical value. Yung binigay na value na totoo, actual, para sa isang bagay. Ang observed value naman, ito yung value that ito yung value na result ng pagme-measure natin sa mga bagay-bagay. For example, may measure ka, yung gi-measure mo, yung result ng measurement mo is what we call as observed value. Tinatawag din yan as experimental value. So, kung napansin nyo, merong symbol na 2 bars. sa magkabilang dulo. May nakita tayo, no? Sa first na bar at saka yung nasa ending na bar. Ang tawag sa mga bars na to ang tawag dyan ay absolute value symbol. So kapag sinabing absolute value, it refers to the distance ng isang number from 0. So kapag distance ng isang bagay na isang numero or number from 0, ang value ay positive, walang negative. In other words, ang absolute error ay positive na value kasi nga may absolute value sign. Halimbawa, kung tatanungin kayo, what's the distance of number 5 to 0? Yung 5, the distance of 5 from 0 is 5. What's the distance of 100 from 0? The answer is 100. What's the distance of negative 5 to 0? The answer is 5. What's the distance of negative 100 to 0? The answer is 100. Because what is asked there is the word, what's the distance? Wala namang distance na negative. Kaya lahat ng distances ay positive. And therefore, wag sinabing absolute value, walang absolute value na negative. Kahit na yung nasa loob negative, the final answer should be positive. Ang absolute error ay may unit na nakadepende sa ginamit for the true and absolute or true and observed value. For example, ang mga measurements natin ay in terms of centimeters, dapat ang unit na gagamitin for absolute error ay centimeters din. So nakadepende siya sa anong ginamit na dimension or measurements or unit sa ating true at saka observed value. Ang relative error naman ay parang absolute error lang din. But this time, dinivide natin ulit sa true value ang result. Yung result na sa taas, divided by true value, the answer is the relative error. Ang relative error ay gusto lang nito i-express kung ano yung part, what fraction or what part ng true value is the observed value. Pero yan ang tanong for the relative error. So mapapansin nyo kasi may division dito. Mapapansin nyo, dinivide natin ang resulta ng true value minus observed value sa true value. So in other words, ang unit na gagamitin for relative error ay wala. Wala siyang unit na gagamitin. And what about percentage error? Percentage error is just like relative error. But this time, ang value lang ng relative error ay multiply natin sa 100. So parang relative error lang times 100. So ang unit natin is, because this is in percentage, ang unit natin is percent. So ang absolute error, may unit na, susundin natin ang unit na ginamit ng true value or sa observed value. Sa relative error ay walang unit. Ang percentage error ay percentage ang unit. Okay, these are the ways to present the errors that we have committed or we commit every time we measure yung mga bagay-bagay sa laboratory. Example, the actual height of a rookie basketball player is 5.80 feet. But when his height was measured prior to the drafting of players, his recorded height was 5.85 feet. So compute for the absolute error of the rookie basketball player's height. So ang tinatanong is absolute error. So ano ba yung given natin? Ang given natin, meron tayong actual na value 5.80 at meron din tayong observed value. By the way, when we say measured value, that is equivalent to the observed value, 5.85. So applying the formula ng absolute error, ang formula natin is absolute value ng difference between true value and observed value. So we just have to subtract 5.80 feet minus 5.85. Of course, negative ang resulta niyan, negative 0.05, but then because of the absolute value symbol, magiging positive yan. So ang final answer is, ang absolute error ng pagkakalculate sa height ng basketball player is 0.05 foot. Okay? A balikbayan box with an actual mass of 58.0 kg approximately weighs 57.8 kg on the airport's weighing scale. What is the relative error and the mass of the balikbayan box? Ang tanong dito, ang tanong is, ano ang relative error? So, ang relative error natin ay nasa formula na absolute value ng difference between true value and observed value divided by true value. So, ang given sa problem, we have the true value of 58.0 58.0 kilograms. That's the actual value. Pero ang ating observed value is 57.8. So, ima-minus lang natin yung dalawa. 58 minus 57.8. Tapos, ang resulta natin is 0.2. Ang resulta na 0.2, i-divide natin by 58.0. So, ang sagot natin is 0.003. Bakit ganito yung sagot natin? Because we follow the rules in significant figures. Ang rule for division is the fewest significant figure ang susundin natin based from the given. Ang given na may fewest significant figure ay 0.2. So, isa lang dapat. So, ang relative error is 0.003, or in scientific notation, that is 3 times 10 raised to negative 3. Suppose you are measuring the length of a piece of string with a ruler. You measure the string to be 10 centimeters long. However, the actual length of the string is 10.5. What's the percentage error of the measurement? So, ang tanong dito, ang percentage error. So, percentage error, ang formula natin is absolute value ng true value minus observed value divided by true value. But this time, ita times natin sa 100. Ang unit natin for this is percentage. So, according sa problem, we are looking for percentage error. Ang given natin is ang true value na 10.5 kasi sabi dito is actual length. At saka meron tayong observe. Observe, remember, you are measuring this. Kapag ikaw yung mag-measure, that will be your observed value. So 10.5 minus 10 is 0.5 divided by 10.5 times 100, that would be 5%. 5% ang sagot kasi we are following the rules and significant figure. Okay, I want you to take note of this. This will be your homework, and ipapasa natin ang sagot for number 1 and 2 sa next meeting natin. So, ang number 1, ang tanong lang dito, a science student measures the length of a flower inflorescence to be 10 centimeters. However, the actual length of the inflorescence is 10.5 centimeters. Ang ipapakita nyo dito is solution for percentage error, solution for absolute error, and solution for relative error. Number 2, the observed measurement of a Mongol 1 pencil is 19.85. The absolute error for this measurement is 0.15 centimeters. So, what are the percentage error and relative error? So, we're looking for, dalawa lang ha, solution for percentage error and solution for relative error. Okay, so we go to the second part of our lesson. Basic lab techniques and tools. Actually, the lab techniques that we'll be talking here and the tools that we'll be talking here ay mga common tools and lab techniques na ginagawa nyo na before at ginagawa nyo always sa lab. So, let's just have some quick review lang muna. Quick review lang ating gagawin nito. And I think na most of the tools, again, na babanggitin natin ay kilala nyo na. So, mga basic lab techniques, there are a variety of methods used to analyze samples and obtain precise data. Some of the examples ng basic lab techniques are evaporating, weighing, filtration of solids, measuring volume, and of course, calibrating of materials. Una is ang method na tinatawag na evaporating. Ang evaporating is a method used to remove solvents from a solution, leaving behind a concentrated solute or what we call as residue. Solvents and solute, if you still recall these terms, solvents, ito yung tumutunaw sa mga bagay at yung itutunaw sa solvent is the solute. So what if you have a mixture or mixture of solvent and solute, now water and salt? So how would you get the salt from water? So if you want to get the salt from water, we do it by evaporating. Ibig sabihin, initon lang nato kung sa Bisaya, ating sa subject, sa boiling mismo muna ang ating solution and until mag-evaporate lahat-lahat ng water from that mixture until only the solutes or the residue are left. So, you can see here sa right side ang proseso ng evaporation or evaporating. Another one is weighing. Weighing is a fundamental technique in analytical laboratories used to determine the mass of a substance. Of course, weighing means pagtitimbang. Kukunin natin ang timbang ng mga bagay-bagay. So maraming pwedeng gamitin na tools sa laboratory. I know most of them nagamit na natin. First one is ang top loading balance. Ito ay isang napakahalagang tool kasi accurate siya and then readily available siya sa mga laboratories na dito sa ating school. Sa laboratory natin, sa GE Lab for example, available siya. Ang accuracy ng top loading balance ay umaabot hanggang plus minus 0.01 gram. Pero meron pang mas accurate talaga sa kanya. And sa analytical methods, analytical chemistry, most of the time, dapat ito yung ginagamit natin. Yung tinatawag natin na analytical balance. Ito ay may accuracy na umaabot ng hanggang 0.0001 gram or 0.1 milligram. Okay? So what about yung mga balance na available sa lab katulad ng triple beam balance o yung weighing scale mismo? Pwede ba natin gamitin siya sa analytical chemistry o analytical methods? Well, pwede naman, pero unfortunately, yung mga balances na yun, yung mga na-mention natin, ay napakababa ng kanilang accuracy and they're prone to errors, unlike sa top loading at saka analytical balance. Another one, ang proseso ng filtration. Filtration is a technique for separating solid particles from liquids or gases by passing the mixture through a porous material na tinatawag din natin na filter. So, ginagawa natin to palagian when we want to separate yung solid na naka-dissolve sa liquid or yung solid na nilagay natin sa liquid. If you want to separate liquid from solid, ang pinakasimpleng gawin ay ang proseso ng filtration. And the most common type of filtration that we do in the lab ay yung tinatawag na gravity filtration. Gravity filtration, that is because of the action ng gravity, ay dahan-dahang mahuhulog ang water or yung liquid part at may iwan sa funnel. If you notice, this is what we call as the funnel or isang porous material or the filter ang solid. So, what are the tools to use in gravity filtration? Well, there are two things that you have to use sa gravity filtration. The funnel, ito yung glassware natin, yung material, at saka ang isang porous material na tinatawag din nating filter, most of the time filter paper o yung cloth na fine cloth ang fiber. Sa lab, most of the time we'll use the Wattmann filter paper na may grades 1 and 2. Kasi ito yung ang holes or ang porosity ng Wattmann na 1 and 2 ay masyadong maliit na umaabot sa micrometer, and that will enable the separation mismo ng liquid from solid. Another one is ang pagme-measure ng mga volume. Measuring of volume is a fundamental laboratory technique, essential and very important for accurately quantifying the amounts of liquids or solid in experiments. Most of the time, ang involved sa measuring ng volume ay mga liquids mismo. Well, we can also measure the volume ng solid, pero madali lang. Kasi kapag solid, we can measure the dimensions ng solid kung regular siya. Kung hindi naman, we'll just use the water displacement method. So there are many different tools that we can use to measure the volume ng liquid, katulad ng pipette and burette. Itong dalawang to ay napaka-accurate. So sa lahat ng mga tools na gagamitin natin to measure the volume in the laboratory, pipettes and burettes are the most accurate ones. And next, ang syringe. Syringe ay accurate din, pero sa mga maliliit na volume. Graduated cylinder, well, andun sa kung meron tayong order or ranking of accuracy ng mga tools na ginagamit sa lab, andun siya sa kalagitnaan, nasa middle. And volumetric plus nasa baba. But anyway, silang mga na-mention natin, sila ay pwedeng gamitin natin to measure accurate amounts of volume. So these are the instruments that we use to measure the volume na nabanggit na natin. The graduated cylinder, ang pinaka-common, syringe for small na mga volumes, burette at saka pipette. Ito sila ang napaka-accurate na mga tools that we use. Volumetric flask, accurate siya for single na volume. Unlike yung mga nabanggit natin kanina, itong nasa left, pictures na nasa left, pwedeng nasa maraming measurement ng volume ang ating makuha. But unlike sa volumetric plus, iisang volume lang ang pwede nating ma-measure. May mga tools sa lab na gagamitin to deliver liquids or substances from one container to another, at meron ding mga tools sa lab na gagamitin to contain the liquid or substances sa lab. So kaya, pwede nating ihiwalay ang mga glasswares as to deliver at saka to contain. So for example, when we say to deliver, ito yung mga glassware that measures the exact amount measured from line after allowing the contents to pour naturally using gravity out of the tip. So ang to deliver ay mga volumetric na mga glassware. So mga glasswares na may graduations o mga measuring lines na ginagamit natin to get the volume of a liquid and transfer it to another container. So to deliver is more about transferring ng liquid from one container to another, and malalaman mo sila mismo sa glassware nakatatak ang letter TD. Kapag makakita kayo ng tool sa lab na may tatak na TD, it means that glassware or that tool is designed to deliver liquids or substances from one place or one container to another container. Another naman is yung to contain. Ang printed naman na letters sa mga tool na yan ay yung letter T and C. To contain. Ito yung mga glasswares that require measuring both a beginning volume and a final volume in order to measure how much was removed from the original contained volume. So, from the word to contain, ang main na trabaho talaga nila is to contain, paglalagyan ng mga liquids mismo or mga substances. Tsaka pwede din silang maging basehan to accurately read yung volume na nabawas o nadagdag sa kanila. Halimbawa, ito nasa mga pictures na nasa right, katulad ng graduated cylinder, mga beaker, at saka mga flask. Well, anyway, kanina, kung nakita natin sa previous slide, ito, ang to deliver most of the time, yung burette at saka pipette. Okay? At ang last natin ay calibrating. Itong technique na to, or yung tinatawag na calibration, is the process of comparing the measurement values produced by a device under test with those of a known standard of accuracy. Ang calibrating or calibration is pagtatama mismo ng mga values na naka-register or lumalabas o nag-a-appear sa ating mga tools. And the purpose ng calibration is to ensure the accuracy of measurements, especially in critical applications, in particular sa analysis or analytical method, analytical chemistry. This is also to maintain compliance with the regulatory standards, because may mga regulatory standards na mangangailangan talaga ng calibrated na mga tools for you to perform a specific process mismo. So, anong ginagawa? Paano ginagawa ang calibration? First, may comparison na tinatawag. The device being tested or yung device na ika-calibrate is compared against a calibration standard, which is a device known to produce accurate measurements. Mismo, ikukumpara natin ang value na pwede nating makuha, value ng measurement na pwede natin makuha from the tool na ika-calibrate, ikukumpara natin siya sa standard mismo na value for that same quantity. Pag hindi siya equal, so kailangan natin i-adjust. Kung masyadong mataas, kailangan ipababa. Kung masyadong mababa, kailangan ipataas. So, kailangan natin yung second step, adjustment. If necessary. Kung equal na agad, you don't need to adjust na, di ba? So, if discrepancies are found, meaning hindi equal ang resulta ng tool sa standard na tool, then you have to adjust, and adjustments may be made to the device under test to correct any errors, although calibration strictly refers to the comparison itself and not the adjustment. So, ang calibration talaga is simply comparison. Ang adjustment na lang is a consequence ng comparison. Ito yung extra step para yung resulta na pinapalabas ng isang tool na kinakalibrate dapat tumugma sa standard na value or unit for that particular measurement. Okay, so I want you to review the different tools used in the lab and their use. There are many videos to explore in YouTube, for example. At saka yung mga books na rin na pwede nyong mabasa to know at saka to study yung mga tools natin sa lab. Of course, marami na tayong tools na nagamit, di ba? So, you just have to recall them. And also, read about the safety in the laboratory. Read the work text na binigay sa inyo for this part. In the beginning ng work text, andun yung mga dapat gawin sa laboratory at mga hindi dapat gawin sa lab. So, that's all for this lesson. And continue reading yung material na binigay sa inyo. Don't forget your homework to be submitted by the next meeting. Thank you and happy studying.
苦くて黒い飲み物なんだ小さくキラリときめいて